like maybe just the theme. Yeah, I'll holla. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Snare and this is my channel. Please do stay, subscribe, share, like, comment. I really want us to become an entire community of people. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much. Like, thank you for your support, especially if you like in the comments, if you share, if you like. Thank you so much for engaging. And yeah guys, I want this to be our little community, and not little, but like right now it's little. So I want this to be our little community, and for us to just have a place of being comfortable, being transparent, and just sharing our journeys and growing together and stuff. So with that being said, the purpose of my vlogs, for those who don't know, is to basically rather show what it is to live a life Christ-centered, but also have a life. So I wanted to show a practical, real life of somebody who is Christ-centered, but at the same time still young, still vibrant, still sorry, do you get what I'm saying? So like that's what my vlogs are for, to just show that, you know, and just embody that more than anything. And then also I'm very passionate, very passionate about the BIBLE, very passionate about it. There's a lot I don't know, don't get me twisted, there's a lot I don't know, but for what I do know, and just for the mere fact that it is God's words, like, yeah, sign me up. So I take it very seriously, and I would also just like for us to grow in this, because this is our letters, like it's our dialogue, it's letters, it's our manual, it's our guide, like for our Christianity. So like, yeah, this is what we live off of. We're gonna start in Judges. Why am I starting in Judges? Because that's currently what I'm reading. That's currently what I'm reading, so it's still new and fresh, and you know, so that's where I want to start. And I'll be doing these every other week, and we're gonna do continuations of the last chapter that we were on. Okay, sorry. Guys, I'm so nervous. I feel like this is so serious, because it really is serious, but like, I don't know, but yeah, we're gonna do it anyway. Today I'm going to do chapter 1 and 2 together, because chapter 1 is more like of setting the scene, and then chapter 2 is like me getting into it. So I just chose to combine them as one. I will not be reading the whole thing. I will though just put in the description box as to what we're reading, and like maybe just the theme, but I won't be putting like the entire scripture. I want you guys to also go and read it for yourselves. Okay, so let's set the picture. Judges chapter 1, it's when the Israelites are now in the promised land, right? And remember, in the promised land, they were the Canaanites and all the ites who were there, which are the people that God had said that he's going to drive out before the Israelites in the land that they're currently in. So yes, they would inhabit the land, but in the land, there's enemies in the land that God said, stress less, I'll drive them out. Little by little. But when you guys go there, I don't want you guys to become like those people, right? Because remember, that's the only reason why God was bringing the Israelites particularly to that place, and why he was driving them out. It's not because the Israelites were goody two shoes and they deserved it. No, it's because the people that were there were doing nonsense. So cool, let's go. Chapter 1, we see the Israelites are now in Canaan, Canaanites. In Canaan, right? They are there. And while they were there, they, instead of being set apart there, like God had said, we would say, I don't want you to do this and that and this. If you go to, I think it's Deuteronomy, you'll read what God basically says. He doesn't want them to do that. The people of that nation, let's just call it a nation, or land, of that land were doing, right? So Israelites are supposed to get there and be what? Set apart. But what do? They get there, they do not drive these people out. Instead, they infuse their lives with these people. Meaning that they like get the Canaanites to live in the land, but to become like a part of them. They integrate societies with them. That's the wording. That's What's the wording I'm looking for? They integrate societies with them. Cool. Now let's go to chapter 2. Also, I just want to be specific as to there's a lot of meat. There's a lot of good stuff in Judges, honestly. Like, I've been really enjoying it. There's a lot of good stuff, just specifically how God was defeating the kings of the other nations. Like, it's so like, like, God is so like, bro, like, Martin, he's so intentional in how he does things, where it's just like, oh, you thought, let me show you real quick. So I'm gonna specifically be focusing on God and the Israelites. That's what I'm gonna be focusing on. Okay. And I don't want us to judge the Israelites because when God appears to the Israelites, he says, how guys, like, I kept my end of the deal, but you guys are doing nonsense. Like, you've integrated with these people and you haven't kept your end of the deal, right? So basically, deal being a covenant, God says that you guys have broken the covenant, right? But I haven't broken my end. I did what I said I was going to do. I got you into the promised land. I told you guys that I would drive these people out from you little by little, and I've kept to it. But you guys have not kept your end of the bargain, which was not to like become like these people, basically, right? They were supposed to get there and change the atmosphere of the land of Canaan. They were supposed to break down their altars and just start a God-centered society and make the land a land of God's people. So obviously, if it's God's people, it's going to be a land that shows God's character, right? Cool. They didn't do that. Now, remember Joshua's generation? They die. They had kids, of course, but after they were in Canaan, they die. And then the kids of Joshua, they didn't know God. Like, they came to just not knowing God. And so it made me wonder, right? Yeah, who knew neither the Lord nor what he had done for Israel. It made me wonder, Uguti, was Joshua's generation not teaching this generation about God? Like, it made me question, Uguti, like, okay, what was happening? What was the disconnect? But then also remember, this new generation now was growing up in a society that was integrated with the Canaanites. So they were exposed to this way of living that Joshua's generation didn't grow up under. Why? Because they decided, Joshua's generation, to integrate societies with the Canaanites. Cool. Then what ended up happening, of course, is that because these kids are being raised in the society now, these kids are now exposed to the ways of the Canaanites. And like the language, whatever the language was, the way of living, the altars. Okay, so what ended up happening is, because remember when they came into the land, they were able to dispossess certain things from certain nations, if I can put it like that there. And this was only because God was with them and God went before them. And as you read here, you'll see literally that the only thing that would make the Israelites win was when God was with them, or God had gone before them. That is literally, guys, that is literally the only thing. It's not that they are God's chosen people. It's not that Baalalaza or anything. It's not that their army or soldiers or whatever were like the most skilled. It was not that. It was literally every time God was with them. And also you will see that because in chapter 2 they angered the Lord when they were serving Baals and all these other foreign gods. They basically rejected God, and God was like, oh obviously like not in like that petty, like not in the petty sense, but in a sense of like, this is disobedience, right? This is disobedience towards God, and disobedience has consequences. And and because God is just, it has to have consequences. So then what happened is that God was angry with them, and because of their disobedience, God took his hand off of them. right? And so now, whenever they would go to fight, they would always lose. They would now always lose. Like now they were losing against these nations. And also because God loved them, what he did is that he put judges. So they would, judges. So they were judges now who would actually basically petition on behalf of Israel to God. And the judges were placed by God they've come from the Israelites. They were placed by God to basically lead the Israelites, guide the Israelites, etc., etc., petition for the Israelites. And then what would happen is the Israelites would now have these judges. Okay, cool, they would listen, da, da, da. And then when the judges die, they go back to bow. Why? Because that's the society, and they default now because that is what they know, that is what is around them, that is their environment, that is what they would actually go to because it's their default, is back to the balls whenever the judges would actually like die. Yeah, it's when they would die. Now I want us to put this into perspective for us today. Look, as Christians, right? We are people who are set apart, right? Which doesn't mean we're special or weird, it just means that we're different. And it's supposed to stay like that. We're supposed to be different. And if we look at the world that we live in today and the world system that we live in today, we are not supposed to integrate societies and become like the world we live in today. And so, as believers, we're supposed to bring the difference into the world and take down the Baals and the altars, just like God had told the Israelites and Judges that when you get there, don't do the nonsense that those people are doing. What we do is that when we are in these societies, be it at work, be it around friends, be it around family, in these places that we are in, instead of bringing the difference, we integrate ourselves into those places. Where now it's just like, who is the Christian here? Do you get what I'm saying? We become so much like them that there's no longer a set apartness or a difference between us and them. Once we lose our set apartness, which is what it is to be holy, because the Bible tells us, be holy as your Father is holy. Father, capital F, which is God, is holy, right? So then when we lose our holiness, we lose our favor with God, which is what happened to the Israelites, that now when they go to fight, hold on, they losing? What's happening? Do you know what I mean? Sorry. which is basically what happens with us, is that now we find ourselves in these places and we're no longer holy, we're no longer set apart. And so then we see ourselves not overcoming things that before we were overcoming. Trying to do the same thing without the hand of God, because of disobedience, they lost their holiness. They can no longer do the thing in which they used to be able to do. Now, what we're supposed to do is actually not carry on in the flesh and in our own power and try to do those things. We're actually supposed to step back and be like, hold on, what has changed? Oh, I changed. I'm no longer in the position of where God had placed me. I'm no longer holy as God had made me. I'm no longer, do you get what I'm saying? We're supposed to then go back and revise, I must actually make a change and get back to the place where God has told me to be. And usually the place is this issue. It's not necessarily a doing issue. It's not like a position in terms of like what we know positions to be. Like you were looking left and then God came back and you were looking right. It's more of like your heart posture has changed. And this is what we see here, is that they became disobedient because they didn't know God. They didn't know of what God had done for them. So they didn't love God. They didn't have the posture that Joshua and his generation had. So I want to challenge us, guys, Uti. In this world that we live in, we're not going to live in some Christian world where it's just us. It's not going to happen, and it shouldn't happen because we're supposed to bring people to Christ. But we are supposed to set the standard. We aren't supposed to conform to the world systems and to the environments that we find ourselves in, and we aren't supposed to be so comfortable with the world that we become like the world. And by that I mean, you're supposed to have your guard up. I don't know how else to explain it, but have your guard up in such a way that at all times you're reminding yourself that you are here as God's servant, as God's child. Like, you're not here as usne and all the things, because this is not your place. Like, the world is not your place. Do you know what I mean? So like, we are supposed to be the people who set the standard. Now, wisdom, please. I can't go to work and I'm still at a lower level and go to my manager and try to change things, and no, there's still order. But in what I do and where I am, there must be a thing that speaks to my difference, if that makes sense. Like, I must still maintain my holiness. I mustn't sleep with whoever to try and get my way up. I mustn't be conniving, manipulative, and all the things, because my standard is different. My standard is holy, right? It is set apart. So then have influence where you are and be faithful where you are, because God is faithful. Like, he's kept his covenant, just like we see here. He's always kept his covenant, and so should we. We should strive to do the same and to not conform. Do not become so comfortable with the world that you start looking like the world, talking like the world, walking like the world, and living like the world. Usne, before she came here, like, she didn't speak like this, like, her language was different. Now she's around people who cuss. Usne manje, James say, oh, cuss, F. Do you get it? So like, it's those things where you start adapting the behaviors of the world instead of setting the standard, which is holiness, in the world. So yeah, remember, the Israelites started losing every fight when the hand of God was lifted off of them. Why? Due to disobedience. I mean, we live in a flippin' Baba house, no. Like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, don't become so with the world that you become like them. Anyway, yeah, guys, that's it for today. Yeah, see you the next time we do Judges 3. If you have any questions, if you have any add-ons, if you have anything, like anything to say, you can add it there. I really think you should read it for yourself, please, so you can get the full gist of it, and you can also get your own revelation. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Please do like, comment, share, subscribe, and let's engage within our community, this little community that we created. And yeah, have a great week. See you on the next one.